Hey, welcome back to Friends by Film. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Tyler Pacholski. Thanks for tuning in today.
Today, we're going to be talking about John Williams and how awesome of a composer he is. And we're going to give our top three musical album scores. So, Tyler, why don't we kick it off with your number three?
Well, first and foremost, John Williams has composed an incredible amount of iconic movie scores. And so this was a very tough decision for me. So when I'm thinking about my top three, I'm thinking about in terms of just legacy, what it has done for not only the film itself, but for movie industry in general. So my number three happens to be from a very famous franchise, and it's Star Wars 1977's now dubbed A New Hope. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the LP. This is a part of a box set that I purchased roughly a year ago. But Star Wars is an incredible soundtrack that is not only indicative of the series it's a part of, but also has done so much in terms of the pop culture landscape. It's the very first to have. I mean, when you think about Star Wars, I mean, how can you not think about that incredible main title and the crawl that is accompanied with that? That is the hallmark of Star Wars. And A New Hope is filled with so much whimsy, world building. I mean, I'm thinking about tracks like The Desert and the Robot Auction, when Luke Skywalker and his uncle are going to the Jawas and the Sandcrawler to pick up pretty much some droids to help out with the farm. You have these musical notes, these beats that just really deepen and enrich in a world that is a galaxy far, far away. I mean, you got the cantina. I mean, we're talking about music that is not only propelling the action, but just very triumphant. The very end, the final battle on the trench. Oh my God. I mean, I can only imagine in 1977 or even today going into a movie theater and listening to that score and how just incredibly bombastic and triumphant it is. It's a great score. And so aside from the other eight series films, Star Wars for me, A New Hope is the one to go by.
Oh, man. The throne room. I mean, that is an awesome. The throne room to the end credits score. I mean, that is just a great piece of music. And I think I agree, Tyler. That is a great choice. And that's really what started it all. And I believe John Williams is the soul of Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely. When you go see a Star Wars film, it's hard to not equate John Williams with Star Wars. It would be almost somewhat. We've seen it in the standalone films now that John Williams is not a part of that, and then going forward, we understand that he's probably not returning. It's hard not to think of Star Wars without John Williams, and so yeah.
And he actually appeared on screen in The Rise of Skywalker.
He did. Wasn't he a musician, I think, or a
No,
waiter?
he was one of the mechanics. He had like a little shop.
Wow.
If you
Okay.
blink, you'll miss him. Like he's in. It's a full close up, but it's only like 3 seconds.
Gosh, I couldn't
It's
remember if it was Last
yeah,
Jedi or Rise, but I can see that.
yeah. It's when Poe goes to and Poe takes the group to his spice planet. He's in
I
there
can't
some
remember. Is it Batu? I can't remember.
something like
It's
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, if John Williams were to have that one cameo, that's totally fine. His mark on every Star Wars film is definitely felt in the music, and so yeah, for me, number three, it's going to go to Star Wars: A New Hope. Daniel,
Great.
what's your number three?
My number three is another Star Wars movie. It is Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So this was a return after 10 years, I believe, right? Since because Revenge of the Sith was 2005, so 10 years. 10-year return, a decade returned for John Williams back to Star Wars. And I got to tell you, just as much as I loved having the big three back of, Luke, Leia, Han, you got to have John Williams come back, especially if they're involved. And what I like about the Force Awakens score is the homages to the old themes, to Leia's theme, to Han, to Luke's theme even, and then to the main title. Star Wars is back, of course, but it's the new stuff too. The Ray's theme, I think, is one of his best works. I really enjoy the way that it's very, the strings and all that. It just kind of brings you in as she's gliding down the sands of Jakku. It's just a great character introduction. And then a couple other tracks that I love. There's a crescendo of X-wings near the end where they had the nice assault onto Starkiller, and John Williams goes nuts. He goes nuts. If you listen to the score in that battle, he just goes crazy with the music. It's awesome. It's up there with Duel of the Fates from Phantom Menace. And then what really gave me the goosebumps, and still does if I rewatch Force Awakens, is when Rey is finally landed and she's going up the steps, and we're approaching Luke, and then Luke turns around, and then we hit the main Star Wars Luke theme, and it's like, oh, you have so much goosebumps because you finally Luke Skywalker is on screen after 30 plus years, and Rey is there holding the lightsaber that he had cut off. So much potential in that moment, and then we hit the main theme at the end, dun 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 dun, and the credits roll, and just you're back in the Star Wars, and I just love that 8 minutes and 51 seconds of the Jedi steps and the finale. So yeah, the Force Awakens. I mean, like you said before, there's so many great scores, but for me, it was the return back to the sequel trilogy, or just coming back and combining the prequel and sequel mojo of the Star Wars that John Williams gave to this album. And you may not be a Star Wars fan like my father, but my dad actually told me, hey, a John Williams album, I'll listen to that just for the music purely. So John Williams affects not only Star Wars fans, but non-Star Wars fans alike.
Absolutely. That's one of the greatest things about music. You can
Exactly.
formulate your own pictures in your mind when you're listening to different themes. I imagine if your father hadn't seen The Force Awakens or had no other context and you were just to put on the album, he's going to develop some kind of, cinematic, imagination of the mind kind of thing. And that's just
Exactly.
great about music. And I also think that The Force Awakens was actually a CD that I purchased right before, well, around the same time. I don't think there's any
Me
spoilers
too.
in terms of the tracks, but I picked up one of the CDs, and that was the CD I just kept listening to and listening
Me
to and
too, man. Me too.
listening to those themes, the race theme, and then also even Kylo Ren. I think that's another memorable theme that you hear throughout the sequel trilogy. And you're right. This particular album had to do not only justice to elements of Star Wars that we're somewhat used to in terms of old themes, but also creating these new themes that we're all anticipating. And to really do it justice with Rey's theme, I think it's an incredible, memorable theme. And Kylo Ren, yeah, all those things are great.
I'm glad he didn't just repeat a bunch of older music. He came up with something new.
Mm-hmm.
And at his age, in 80s plus, I mean, that's talent. And he's done it for so
Talent
many
for sure.
years. But he's probably been composing what, 60 years, right? I mean,
Gosh, I can't remember the last time. It's kind of one of those Betty White situations where if I ever to see John Williams in the news, I'm like, please, please,
right?
John, please. We're celebrating another birthday, man. Like, oh, we're all gonna pass, and in the day that John Williams passes, I'm gonna be listening to his music from here on out, and I look forward to being able to share this music, not only the films of George Lucas, Spielberg, and the other great directors that John Williams has worked with. I'm excited to share that music with them too.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tyler. So let's get on to your number two.
All right, so my number two is from
Oh,
one of
let's
his
see the. Like, can we see the
collaborators.
back of that real quick? Can we see the back of the
Yeah,
vinyl? That is
so
sweet.
we got
Vader.
Darth Vader's helmet in the back, and this is a reissued reprint from a box set. And now, my second is from 1993, one of his collaborations with Spielberg in a film that I hold dear to my heart, and it's Jurassic Park. So Jurassic Park is my number two soundtrack from John Williams. I recall seeing the film multiple times in the theater, and not only did the visual imagery, the CGI, the dinosaurs, and the action that took place captivated my memory, but it was also the music. And so, as early as I can remember, it was another CD I bought, or at least my parents had bought when I was much younger.
Yeah, because you were like what,
I
6,
was 5 years old.
5 or
Yeah, I
so.
was
Yeah,
5 years old at that time. But if we look at the soundtrack elevates the movie in incredible ways. No one has seen dinosaurs on the big screen until this time. The way that we're used to is stop motion animation or any sort of probably
Godzilla.
2D kind of animation. Yeah. You got these guys or women in these big suits, rubbery suits. This is the first time we really saw dinosaurs in a scope that was incredibly realistic. And John Williams' score, accompanies that with incredible success. I mean, think about that moment where you have Dr. Alan Grant, the character played by Sam Neill, Laura Dern's Ellie Sattler, uh, Jeff Goldblum's Ian Malcolm. They're pulling up to this kind of like this kind of hilly area, and all of a sudden you hear the triumph, the sounds of this thunderous, the brachiosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
You just have that beautiful, majestic music, the theme of Jurassic Park, just underlying that, and just the sound and the music rising. It's triumphant, and we're witnessing the majesty of this incredible foreign dinosaur, and just this triumphant sound and the majesty of it coalescing with what we're seeing. It's just like, wow, it's just incredible. And then you have the pitfalls, the suspense, the danger, the collapsing of themes. It's incredible. I mean, you got the incident at Isla Nublar, opens up the movie with the raptor attack. You have the themes. You have the gate opening. These are things that are just imprinted in my mind. And so when I'm listening to the soundtrack with much of John Williams soundtracks, I'm watching the film. I don't
Oh
necessarily
yeah.
have to have the film in my mind, but I
Yeah.
can see it. And Jurassic Park is a soundtrack that not only takes new elements that are kind of like more primal and more percussionistic, just to bring life to the dinosaurs, but it adds stirring emotion with the violins, the strings, the orchestra. There's a moment between two characters where it's very sobering, and you have Dr. John Hammond recalling one of his initial tries at building some sort of amusement park with fleas, memories of Petticoat Lane. It's just this beautiful, sobering, charmful sound to it, and I love it, man. This Jurassic Park, is probably not going to be in a lot of people's top three. It might, but this has left an impression on me. And so for me, Jurassic Park is my number two.
Oh, I think it's one of the most iconic theme songs of
Absolutely.
all time.
Yeah.
And there's a movie I love, Swiss Army Man, that and they have a nice reference to Jurassic Park and the music.
Okay.
Um, so my number two is Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first entry of the Indiana Jones franchise. So yeah, right away the Raiders theme. I mean, that's been a staple of my childhood for like a heroes theme ever since I can remember, and to some extent more so than Star Wars on some levels. I would put Indiana Jones up there as having an impact on me similar to a Star Wars feel, and I attribute that some to John Williams. So yeah, it's just a great adventure score, and it's got a lot of great themes in it. We have Marion's theme, which I think is incredible, and the music when the first time we see Indy's silhouette on the wall and he walks in and sees Marion again after all this time. I mean, it's just a throwback feel of a score to like, you know, the early sturdy action or the early sturdy serials, which is what George Lucas was going after when he came up with the idea for Spielberg to do, essentially James Bond for as a treasure hunter. So yeah, Marion's theme. We have the airplane fight, which is amazing at the end. You know, when he's fighting that big guy and getting
You got
punched,
the blade.
the
Yeah.
blade going around. Yep, man, that's iconic stuff here. And then the warehouse, and then we go into the end credits. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen Raiders Lost Ark. There's a lot of great stuff in here. The map room when he puts down the staff and you can finally see where the ark is, the location. The way that John Williams builds into the moment or feeds into what we're seeing on screen and and combines sound and picture as one. Like he is the missing link to some of this. I mean, it's just it's unbelievable how he can make a film really pop and come to life and make a film better.
I totally agree. I think
Yeah,
Raiders of the Lost Ark is an incredibly adventurous score. It just soothes with adventure. You have the pomp, the bum bum bum,
yep,
just everything, just bringing a sense of levity and excitement and adventure that's nonstop. And yeah, I do not fault you. I think it's one of his best scores. So
yeah.
yeah, that's
It
awesome.
definitely is. And I was disappointed when Crystal Skull came out because there was no new music. All they put out was a like best of indie.
It was like a greatest hits. It's been
Yeah,
a long time since I've seen Kingdom of Crystal Skull, and yeah.
absolutely nothing new.
So if
I
you
was
were to
like,
rank the four indie adventures, I'm assuming Raiders is top. Then you got
yeah.
Crystal Skull at the very bottom. Where does Last Crusade and Temple of Doom
Actually,
rank?
I would put Raiders, Last Crusade, Crystal Skull, and then Temple of Doom. So
Oh, okay,
yeah, but we can talk about that later.
for sure. Well, rumor has it, I think Paramount is going to be gearing up to release Indiana Jones collection in 4K. If I'm not mistaken, Indiana's getting ready to turn 80 or 40 years old. If I'm not mistaken, Raiders of the
Yeah,
Lost Ark was
yeah,
released in 81. So
yep. I looked that article up too.
good.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're separate, but I don't. I mean, I'm cool with finally making that last purchase and getting the set for the final time.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a worthy set to purchase. Crystal Skull aside. So
All right, man. Well, we've come to your number one. So, Tyler, tell us what is the number one John Williams album in your opinion?
so my number one John Williams album, I'm going to go back about 21 years. It was Christmas 2000. I was roughly, I was just 12 years old. It was celebrating its 25th anniversary at this time. So 25 years subtracted is 1975. It's one of John Williams' first collaborations with Spielberg, and it is the 1975 classic Jaws. So my dad bought me a CD, and I have it here somewhere. I still have this very same CD. But it's one of my most memorable Christmases and my most memorable gifts. I had a portable CD player and I was listening to this thing on repeat. Jaws is one of my favorite films. And the reason why I think Jaws is John Williams' best score is if you are very well versed into the production of Jaws, this was a movie that was tumultuous in the making. Many attempts at bringing the shark to life. The shark's not working. The music, it is an incredible component of the film. Without the music, the film wouldn't work. The just the bottom, bottom, just that primal dread that is alerting us as an audience of something nearby or incoming that is doesn't sound good at all. As the shark really makes the film and really heightens the stakes and drives a lot of that action. the music, the shark cage fugue, just the adventure that is filled into this, the hunt for the shark. You have these three characters: Brody, Hooper, Quint, all from different walks of life and different motivations, coalescing together on this boat, and they're coming against the shark. And the music is just, you can't separate. You could separate the music and listen to it and imagine it, but there it's an
Mhm.
incredible score. So for me, Jaws is John Williams' greatest opus in terms of what sound, what not only sound, but what music can do to characterize something that we can't see. And I kid you not, I go into a big body of water. I'm thinking the main title for Jaws. I could be in a lake and I know logically that there is no shark around here, but I'm thinking to myself, damn, such an
That
impressionistic
theme,
score.
that theme's going in your head.
Yeah, it's just hard to shake off, and it's so far reaching into the cultural. It defies language, and that's another thing about music. It defies language. It inspires creativity, and for me, you got Out to Sea, you got the Great Shark Chase, you got the end titles, those end titles when there's actual release, the shark's gone, just nice, just quiet, meditative type of music. Gosh, as an audience member, I can only imagine after going through that hell of that shark, you just have release. There's just many great moments. I can talk on and on about it. I can go track by track and tell you what I think about it. But for me, Jaws is my number one John Williams soundtrack of all time.
That was a great breakdown. And yeah, you see the impact that Jaws had on the film industry and audience at the time. I mean, it's a horror movie. Like
It is.
people thought they were going to die. Like if they went to the beach after seeing this, and my mom told me that she saw Jaws and she hasn't seen it since. And then she went to the beach and she couldn't get in the water for like a month. So
I think
yeah,
John Williams had something to do about that.
I think so too. He gave life to the shark.
He did. Absolutely. When the shark wasn't working, the music was there to make sure it worked, and it worked.
Yeah, that this is why Spielberg and John Williams have collaborated ever since. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still done most of Spielberg's films, even The Post. As
Yeah, the
I
post
was
was.
doing research for this episode.
Yeah, there's been a few films where he hasn't worked with him. I think Bridge of Spies was a film that they weren't working on together. I think The Color Purple is another one. But yeah, no, Spielberg and John Williams are just like this. I mean, they're incredible, incredibly tight collaborators, and I think we have to thank Jaws as being the very first film that really just exploded them together on the scene.
Did he introduce John Williams to George Lucas, or was it the other way around?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Jaws was 90 or 75, and Star Wars was 77. So yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
that'd be interesting to go back and see if that was.
Mm-hmm.
But
So is Jaws your number one, Daniel?
it is not.
Ah,
But it's a very good choice. This is tough, by the way. This is, I
this is
mean,
so tough, man. I'm curious to know what your number one is.
my number one is The Empire Strikes Back. To me, it takes everything that the first Star Wars in '77 does and times it by two, turns it up to 11. It it builds off what we know and adds some really great themes like Yoda and the Force. I mean, that
Mm,
is, I mean, the fact that they used that theme back in Mandalorian season 2 of the Jedi, called the Jedi episode 5. I mean, it's been called back in the Last Jedi. I mean, there's just been Yoda's theme to me is one of his best works, especially when he's taking the X-wing out of the water on Dagobah. I mean, you just feel how
just the
just
emotion.
the emotion behind it. Yeah, exactly. You feel like Luke's struggle in that moment, and then Yoda using this is like the end of the line for Yoda almost, and Yoda using the Force. One of the final times that he does. It's just it's epic. And this Cloud City has some great themes in there, especially when they're trying to escape with trying to go after Boba Fett. after Han's been frozen in carbonite. And then the carbonation scene, where we get the iconic Harrison Ford line, ad lib, I know, the the build in there, and then the work back into the Imperial March. I mean,
Mm.
that's people's ringtones now when their mother calls Imperial March. It's it's epic. It's so good. It's one that I return to, and it really elevates the film. I don't know if Empire Strikes Back is considered up there with top tier Star Wars if we don't have John Williams score behind it. And the duel, Vader and Luke, we get the big showdown at the end. There's some great music in there. Let's see what else. Yeah,
The Han
it's
and Leia's theme.
Han and Leia. Yeah, they have their moment in the Falcon, and then they have the big exchange when Han's about to be frozen in carbonite. We don't know if he's going to survive in that moment. I mean, can you imagine seeing this in 1980 and in a theater, not knowing what's going to happen, and the whole like "I am your father," and the whole like "I know," just the epicness of the film, and John Williams is right behind to elevate those scenes. So I mean, people take for granted composers in films and stuff, and it's unfortunate. But John Williams will forever be one of the best composers of all time, and that's out of all music, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his music catalog is so iconic and it's so memorable. There are times where I can listen to a John Williams score and feel bits and pieces that are maybe somewhat resemblance of maybe something from a previous franchise, but he makes them their own. Like, I don't know how he does it. This guy is so talented, and he has done so much for the film industry and just the pop culture in general that there's no way people are going to not know who this is going forward. And so I'm glad that we've had this discussion, Daniel. This has been incredible talking about John Williams. What are some of your honorable mentions?
Oh man,
What are some film scores that you were just like, ah, ah, ah?
Superman the movie.
Okay.
I think that's a fantastic piece. The Olympics theme. I think
Yes.
that's not a movie, but it's a great piece of music that we still use. There's a couple others. It's War of the Worlds. I really like that score. I think
Mm-hmm.
he did a fantastic job. And E.T. as well. E.T.
Yes.
is fantastic, and I mean that movie makes you cry. I'm not gonna
Oh
lie.
yeah.
I mean that movie is and most of that is to the score.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Some of my honorable mentions, films that I was really just kind of struggling with were E.T. A Minority Report is an excellent score. Let's see what else. You got Schindler's List, and one of his Oscar-winning scores. Incredibly emotional, beautiful. Itzhak Perlman, playing the violin. Um, I was going through some of the Star Wars films, and Force Awakens is probably one of my favorite ones as well. Let's see. Gosh, there's just so many.
Duel
Yeah,
of Fates. Duel of
Duel of the
Fates
Fates, The
is
Phantom
probably
Menace. I mean,
still one of the
yeah,
best themes.
absolutely. Say what you want about the film. I think it's got some moments. Duel of the Fates is so iconic. Yeah, it's an incredible piece of music. And Home Alone, The Carol of the Bells. I mean, Home Alone might not be on the same level as in terms of scope and action like Star Wars or Jurassic Park, but my God, that's film score is so fun, whimsical. John Williams can do it all, man.
The Terminal also. I give a shout out to the Terminal.
That's a good one. I remember buying. I don't have it anymore, but I had the 3-disc DVD set. It had, I think it had one of them with the movie bonus features, and then it had the actual soundtrack. Ha! I don't know where it is. It might be somewhere in the attic, but yes, that's a pretty good score too.
Well, speaking of shout outs, I have one to give to one of my good friends, Ernesto, EJ is what I call him, who's recently been diagnosed with COVID-19. He told me his favorite score of John Williams is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is a fantastic choice. So
Beautiful score.
I wanted to give EJ a shout out. Stay safe. Hope I wish you well in your recovery. You can beat this. And thanks for listening and watching Tyler and I go through the process of Friends by Film and being part of the community. So we thank you, EJ.
Thank you, Ernesto, and to everyone else watching us. Thank you for you guys. Thank you guys for watching us. Feel free to leave a comment, like, follow us along. We've got some stuff coming up the pipeline. Daniel will be talking about WandaVision. It's going to be premiering sometime this week. That'll be something
Friday.
that I'm looking forward to. Friday, exactly. And yeah, feel free to like us on our Facebook page, Friends by Film. You can find me on Twitter at Tyler_Pacholski. That's Pacholski. Feel free to like and follow me there. Daniel, where can they find you and follow you?
At PoliPictures, POLI Pictures on Twitter and YouTube. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe. Follow us on Friends by Film on Facebook. Let us know your favorite scores of John Williams. Let us know your favorite movies of John Williams, or scores, I guess. Film scores. Yeah, same thing. Let us know
If John Williams were to make a movie, it would be fantastic. I mean, he'd get the score pat down, but I'm sure he's worked with the greats like Spielberg. He probably knows a thing or two about making a film.
Yeah, you got to imagine that he's seen enough behind the scenes to make a cohesive something out of nothing. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Hell yeah.
Falco punch.